Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Going to go on a short, mellow tirade here, sort of a rant, if you will. Um, Research that I'm doing for school, for my degree, led me to the doorstep of Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick. Now, obviously, I've heard the name before, but I was not really familiar with any of his work. I honestly, I just never really paid him that much attention. Um, but my research led me to him. Um, as I looked into him, I found that he is a lecturer at the Maghrib Institute, which I do not support. Um, so I stopped and I said, you know something, let me call somebody who maybe can fill me in on Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick. So I called one of my old heads down in Atlanta. I called one of my elders and I ran this name by him. And he said, I asked him about, what he knew of his Aqidah and what he knew of his history. And you can find Dr. Quick's bio online, so I'm not going to get into that. But the elder told me, he said, you said on a lecture or a video that you made, you talked about the lack of infrastructure that the Salafis have. And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, well, when these brothers who claim a Salafiyyah, when they go and they obtain these advanced degrees, the master's degrees and PhDs, when they go and, earn these degrees, when they come back to the community, they come back to nothing. They don't come back to well-paying jobs. They don't come back to jobs that can support them. So what happens is they're forced almost to go to these different institutes and academies that, are suspect. And they are able to then pay them a livable wage to take care of themselves and their families. And then we as Salafis sit back and attack them and critique them and ask them why are they there when we don't have anything to offer them from our own community. And I know that to be true from other advanced degree holders that, have gone to work in or line themselves with different organizations that are questionable. And I remember one time I called a brother. He's a degree holder from one of the Islamic universities in Saudi Arabia. And I remember I called him just to check on him, and he sounded very preoccupied. He was rather short. And I said, okay, are you good? What's going on? He said, yeah, man, I'm over here reading. I said, and, I'm figuring he's reading Islamic information. I said, so what are you reading? He said, well, I'm reading something in reference to my degree, my industry. And I said, you mean secular? He said, yeah. I said, why are you doing that? He said, because I have to go get a job. I said, what do you mean you have to get a job? He said, I have to feed my family. He said, the Salafi community cannot afford me. The Salafi community cannot afford to pay me a livable wage, and the Indo-Pak community won't. He said they won't give me a job being an imam. They won't give me a job utilizing my expertise. He said to me, what's really sad is that my colleagues, fellow students who earn the same degree, he said, and understand the degree that I have, if I were in a Muslim country, I could be a judge in an Islamic court. I'm qualified to be a judge in an Islamic court. He says, my colleagues who went back to their home countries were received with open arms, and they were given position and they were given position to where they could utilize their expertise and benefit the people. And the people understood that, respected them for their level, and gave them the position in order to benefit the community. He said, but we come back to our communities, meaning African American, Salafi communities. He said, and people just look at him and say, oh yeah, that's that dude that went overseas and studied for a while. Like there's no elevation, there's no respect for the for the person who put forth the time, the effort, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the loss of sleep, loss of meal, loss of time with family. All of that is diminished and looked at as insignificant and small. But then we wonder why we don't have anything in the Salafi community as far as infrastructure. We don't want to send our children to the schools of the kuffar. We don't want to send our kids to certain other schools that may have deviant ideologies, or they may hold some positions that maybe go against the Quran and the Sunnah, but we don't have anything to send them to. At some point, we are going to have to get it together. At some point, the people who claim Quran and Sunnah, specifically from the African American community, at some point we're going to have to get it together. If you go and you look at what would be, I guess, the mainstream average Sunni masjid, where the majority are Arab and Indo-Pak, they have money. And that money pays for school. And that money pays for programs and initiatives and clubs. And it goes to, or speaks to, their ability to provide hifd programs. You have to pay these teachers. Different cultural programs to add to the students' cultural and social capital. They have the money. They have the surplus income. Because of their level of education, they work in a job that pays them, and they have surplus income, and then they can pay for fixing the masjid, maintenance of the masjid, classes, initiatives. They can pay a qualified imam a livable wage in order to come and teach the community. For those who claim a Salafiyyah, at what point are we going to get it together? It's sad. It's sad. I had a conversation with, I don't want to say the brother's name, but I had a conversation with a well-known imam. He's been around for a long time. And he told me, at one point there was a plan for the Salafis to have an Amir, to have someone that would be considered the head of the Salafis, and everything would fall under him, and there would be organization, but in the end it fell apart. And it seems so much so that the students, those who have acquired Islamic knowledge from universities, and other than that, those who have studied in villages or but the point being they're qualified, they can't come together religiously to move our communities forward. They can't come together as a collective. It doesn't have to be a conference. Let it be an invited backdoor meeting or backroom meeting where they sit, iron out issues, and map out a trajectory for our communities, for a Salafiyyah, for the African American Muslims. Come together, sit at the table, iron out issues if it needs to be ironed out, and move forward. Put your expertise together. Once you do that, then invite others who may have secular expertise, be it economics, be it psychology to deal with mental health issues, whatever the case may be, whatever individual communities may need, because all communities may not need the same thing. But come together, bring your knowledge together, bring your brotherhood together, brothers from the East Coast, brothers from the West Coast, brothers from down south, come together. Come together based on knowledge, iron out issues, put together a plan to move us forward as a collective. Because understand, other communities move as a collective. They move as a collective. Their economics oftentimes are collective. How they educate their children is a collective, it's a collective endeavor. But we don't do that though. But then we complain about our communities. We complain about why, our educational levels are this, that, and the other with our children. And then we point the finger at people who, maybe we don't agree with them religiously, but secularly, they're murdering us. They're killing us. They're able to build schools. They're able to build masajid. They're able to fund programs and all these things that I previously mentioned, while we sit here and argue amongst ourselves. Salafis got to get it together. Period. The Tulab al-Ilm got to get it together. Because we're falling further and further behind, and we can't continue to be the lower hand. We can't continue to be, begging for other communities to take care of us and begging for other communities to allow us to sit at the table. Build your own table. Build a table for us. Like I said, I was going to rant. So I'm finished. I hope I didn't offend anyone. I hope there was motivation in what I said for someone. And again, for the students who claim Salafiyyah, who have studied and who are qualified and who have earned, be it degrees or certificates or whatever, come together. Call each other on the phone, WhatsApp. Hey, let's meet. Let's find a time that we can all meet someplace.
850 calories.
I'm sorry, I was at the gym.
2 hours and 30 minutes. Heart rate.
I'm sorry, that's my phone. That's my watch. Come together and find a way to put your expertise together, put your brains together, figure out the issues that need to be dealt with, the most urgent issues in various communities, and let's start mapping out a trajectory for us. Other communities do it. Why can't we? All right, my rant is over. Please pass this video to those who you feel would benefit from it. Pass this video to the leadership of your, the various masajid. Pass this to who you think would benefit from hearing what I just said. Let's come together for our community. Subscribe, hit the like button, and all that other stuff. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.